Hi, I'm Nicole Stiles. This is my author study on Maurice Sendak. Maurice Sendak once said that he refused to lie to children, and that sentiment is part of what makes him such an interesting author. He was born in 1928 in New York City. He was sick a lot as a child, and so he spent a lot of time in bed, which is where he had developed a love of reading and drawing. He began his career designing window displays for F.A.O. Schwartz. He first tried to sell wooden toys to the store, and when that wasn't successful, he got a job to doing the windows. He started as an illustrator. After illustrating over 80 books, he felt he had earned the right to write his own book. He wrote Kenny's Window in 1956, and then that was followed by 3 others. The Sign on Rosie's Door in 1960, The Nutshell Library in 1962, and there was another one. In 1963, he published his best-known work, which is Where the Wild Things Are. 1970 was In the Night Kitchen, which is a frequently banned book. It's controversial because the main character runs around naked. He also, later in life, he designed sets and costumes for the theater. After Where the Wild Things Are, he published Higgledy Piggledy Pop in 1967, Seven Little Monsters in 1977, and Outside Over There in 1981 as well. The style and theme of Where the Wild Things Are were very unusual for the time. Children's books tended to be brighter, happier, featured obedient kids. He used his own childhood as an inspiration. His family fought a lot. His mother was kind of unstable. He also lost a lot of family members in the Holocaust. And so as an adult, he recognized that children are not always polite. They often get in trouble for things that are just natural things to do for children. So Where the Wild Things Are is his commentary on the conflict between human nature and civilized society. It's about a child doing what's perfectly natural for him, but what's not acceptable to his mother. He took the wild things from his extended family. It was originally supposed to be Where the Wild Horses Are, but he realized he couldn't draw horses. So he used the memories of his Jewish immigrant relatives as inspiration for the wild things. They were disheveled and angry looking, and so that was what the wild things are supposed to look like. Another good quote from Sendak. I think it's unnatural to think that there is such a thing as a blue sky, happy clouded childhood for anybody. So part of why children love him so much is that he recognizes that childhood isn't just a happy, peaceful period of life, necessarily. I'm going to read Where the Wild Things Are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew and grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through the night and day, and in and out of weeks and almost over a year to Where the Wild Things Are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. And Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened, and called him the most wild thing of all, and made him king of all wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. There's the rumpus. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely, and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around from far away across the world he smelled good things to eat, so he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go! We'll eat you up! We love you so!" And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws, but Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye, and sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day, and into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. So Sendak is a popular and interesting author because he wrote candidly and without condescension. Both children and adults appreciate his honest perspective on childhood, which was influenced by his own struggles as a child. Where the Wild Things Are is 54 years old, but it is still as relevant as ever. My interactive activity is for 4th grade students. After reading Where the Wild Things Are and learning about Sendak's life, they will write and illustrate a sequel to Where the Wild Things Are, with the premise of Max returning at some later point, however long they want to make that be, returning to the land of the wild things, and it is written from the point of view of the wild things, so how they feel when Max comes back and what happens.